Hello, and welcome to the Megan Taylor Creator Podcast, a show for entrepreneurs looking to grow their business with digital marketing. In this episode, I'll be sharing with you my top tips on how to start planning for the new year. Let's get started. So, in this episode of the Megan Taylor Creator Podcast, I just wanted to sit down and start getting back into the swing of things by talking about one of my favourite topics, which is planning, and more specifically, how to plan for the new year. Obviously, we've all just had the Christmas period, which personally for me has been really lovely. I feel really refreshed and ready to get back into the swing of things, and that was much needed because I'm not going to lie, I think that 2022 was a really great year, but generally speaking, November and December were really hard months for me in terms of my business and struggling to see any progress. I also had some personal things going on that really threw me off, and I wasn't really expecting those, but everything has panned out quite well, and I'm ready to kind of just put a pin in it and just continue on, and hopefully this year will be really successful for Megan Taylor Creative. Last year was great. There were definitely some ups and downs, but generally speaking, I still felt that I succeeded in most of what I wanted to accomplish. Again, apart from the last couple of months of the year, but I find that in the last couple of months, I feel pretty directionless anyway. It's not just last year, it's always been that way. So I want to be mindful of that and really try to use the beginning of the year to put plans in place and set things in motion. So as always, this is going to be quite a rambly episode. So let's just get straight into it. The first tip that I have for you to start planning for the new year, and it's worth mentioning that although I will be specifically talking about 2023, these tips can be used at the beginning of any year. So my first tip is to actually start planning your overall goals. And I think that it's really important before you start planning any details or like specific metrics or anything like that, it's important to take a step back, look at the bigger picture, think about what you want to change and kind of go from there. I always think that if you think about what you want to change, then that's a really good catalyst for actually identifying what it is that you want to achieve. So for me, for example, a big thing that I want to do this year is get better with lead generation. And for me, that could mean many different things. It could mean increasing my email marketing efforts. It could mean increasing the amount of content that I make. It could also mean at some point leveraging paid advertisements, which I kind of experimented with in my personal business. Very little. I obviously have a lot of experience with paid ads and ads management, working with other brands and other campaigns, but generally speaking, for my own business, I've only really run a few tests, and I always preach about this, that a marketing campaign that has a mixture of organic and paid advertising strategies is just gold, and I know that, but obviously with the cost of living crisis and just generally not feeling quite ready to make that investment up until recently, I kind of put it off. But now that I'm in the beginning of the year, I know that I do want to make sure that I leverage that, because I think I'm missing out just by relying on organic methods in the beginning. It's not as effective as when you have a bigger audience, and obviously I don't have a huge audience. I have, I would say, quite a loyal audience, and a lot of the people that engage with my content are definitely returning people, but in order to find new people, I do need to take advantage of paid advertisements. And I know that because lead generation is my main focus, this is the year to start doing that. But I also know that I want to increase my content marketing efforts. I've been doing a podcast, and I'm really excited to say that I have a new microphone. So I'm really hoping that I will be able to up the quality and maybe even produce more podcast episodes and maybe more multimedia content in the future. Now that I've got an actual microphone that's not just in my computer, I've noticed that the quality of this microphone is really good and it's pretty crystal clear. So that's a really big deal for me, because it makes me feel like I can start putting a lot of the goals in place to improve my content marketing efforts. So that's what my overarching goal is. And a good way to kind of think about, apart from thinking about change, a good way to actually think about what goals you want to set is thinking about your intentions for the year. So for some people, it might actually be to really grow their business and put a focus in that. And if that's the case, chances are you're going to be working quite a lot. But if you're more interested in finding a work-life balance, you may want to get to the point where you can start to hire more people so that you can delegate your workload and offload your workload a little bit so that perhaps you don't have to work as much. But you need to actually know that before you can start putting the plans in place. So now that we've kind of looked at how to set your main intentions for the year, let's take a look at how to start planning to put the gears in motion and actually start to do things that will help you achieve your goals. The next tip that I have for you to help you plan for the new year is to actually start documenting your plan. So I find that this is the thing that people just jump into when they think about planning, and they think that the tactics are more important, but actually you can't have tactics without a strategy. This is the same for a content marketing strategy or your digital marketing strategy overall. And it's the same with your overall business goals and your business plan for the year. But now that you've actually figured out what you want to achieve, it's a lot easier to identify and prioritize tasks that need to happen in order to help you achieve your goals. The way I would approach this, I would probably put it in a Google Doc, or more recently, I've been using Notion to do a lot of my planning because it's very intuitive. There's a built-in calendar that you can use for your Notion boards. So that's really helpful for actually looking at your day-to-day activities. But also you can create things like tables where you can put ideas and kind of separate your thoughts. And I find that it's just really intuitive all around. It's a really great way to understand how you work and what you need to do in order to feel organized and in order to actually be productive and use your planning to actually get the work done. And also it helps you just generally understand how to capture your ideas. And I find that Notion boards are very creative and they can really help you identify and unlock all the thoughts that are going on in your brain. So that's what I would personally use, but you don't have to. You can even just use a normal planner, or if you've got like an iPad or something or a tablet, using something like Google Calendar might be actually better, because then you can use a keyboard or touch your screen and just continue to add things as you go along. But now that you know what I'll be using, let's look at how I would actually document it. So as a content marketing agency, obviously a big part of my planning is creating content, and it's not just creating content for me but also for my clients. And to make my life easier, I generally try and stick to a format when it comes to creating content calendars, because it makes the process more streamlined and I can actually think about what I want to put in it whilst I'm on the go, and then I can just implement it into the document. And like I said, I have a Notion board for this, which I also have on my website on my resource library, and you can download that for free. I'll leave it in the description box below. But generally that is largely focused on content marketing, because I feel like in order to achieve a lot of my goals, I need to significantly ramp up my content marketing efforts. And I actually feel like I did okay last year. I definitely did better than my first year of business. But this year, now that my business has matured a bit and my content marketing skills are even better, I want to really ramp things up. So I will be using a quarterly plan to help me do that and to help me identify my goals and more specifically my metrics. And this is kind of the next key to understanding what it is that you need to achieve. So for me, like I said, lead generation is going to be my main focus, because I just always want to have a pipeline of leads, and I felt like I really didn't have that last year, and I think that's what caused a lot of my anxiety and worry. So I will be creating a content calendar and content strategy around lead generation, and because lead generation is my focus, I know that it really needs to be in line with the buyer's journey. So I need to not only focus on awareness stage content, but consideration and decision stage content as well. And I use my Notion board to essentially help me map out which content ideas will be best for which stage of the buyer's journey. And I can also look at the different customer avatars that I have and create an entire buyer's journey and an entire library of content that will slowly push each different type of prospect to a conversion essentially. So that's going to be my strategy. That's going to be what I'm going to be focusing on. But there's also other things that I need to do in order to make this happen. So I obviously need to actually create the content, and that means that I need to kind of plan when I'm going to be creating content, how I'm going to be creating content, and I need to plan for updating old content as well. I'm trying to gather a lot of my content at the moment that I've had from other websites or other versions of my website and put it into my blog so that people can get a comprehensive understanding of my content so far. But I don't just want it to be like a blog anymore. I really want it to be a resource for people to help them understand how to market themselves and how to succeed in business and in content marketing. So that's going to be another goal as well. And in order to do that, I know that there are some practical things that I need to do on my website. So I've jotted that down on my Notion board. And I also need to focus on revamping and just reprioritizing my email marketing. Email marketing is something I really struggle with, and something in my own business anyway, and really struggle to kind of keep up with, because it's hard to do something when you don't see the immediate results. That is just a fact of modern day life. We are all now used to getting instant gratification, and email marketing, I know, is not something where you get instant gratification. It's all about building and nurturing and developing before you can actually see the results. But because my email marketing list is quite small, I've been really, I guess, deflated about it, and I'm not quite sure why I'm not really seeing much success. So I'm really trying to use the blog and the resources that I want to create this year as a big draw, and I want to be mindful about creating resources as well. I don't want to create resources that I think my audience will like, but actually they're not that useful. So that's generally what I want to do. So yeah, it's really good to look at your goals and then think about what it is that you actually need to do, and then write that down in a plan. And I would again focus on your plan and split it up in quarters so that things aren't as overwhelming for you, and write down the tasks and the tactics that you want to implement in order to help you achieve your overall goals. Also, I would write down the metrics, the actual metrics as well, just because they can help you really understand how much progress you actually made. Obviously, you can make progress and it be completely unrelated to metrics or anything like that. But I do find that having those metrics just allows you to really pinpoint the progress, pinpoint whether you maybe slacked a little bit on the work, or whether your marketing just didn't work and you actually just need to change your strategy moving forward. And splitting this up into quarterly plan just allows you to have enough time to actually start those goals without wasting a lot of time. If you plan in a yearly perspective, that's just not going to be helpful, in my opinion. You obviously need to have a holistic view of what you want to achieve in the year, but generally speaking, for the practical everyday side of things, it's just not a viable or sustainable way to plan. So planning quarterly just allows you to have time to kind of screw up and then reevaluate consistently. And that's the thing, planning quarterly, there's distinct times of the year where you can actually sit down and review your progress. You're not just waiting to the end of the year and realizing that you've completely failed. So those would be my general top tips on how to plan for 2023. So yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed the first episode of the new year for the Megan Taylor Creator podcast. I really enjoyed doing it. It's helped me kind of configure a lot of my own thoughts and process a lot of my own goals. And I just hope that although it was a rambly episode, as my podcast episodes always are, it gives you some insight into how to actually sit down and start planning for the new year without feeling overwhelmed. As always, if you do need someone to help you plan your content marketing efforts this year, you can book a free consultation with me, and we can just sit down and talk about all of your content issues and what you actually want to achieve with your content marketing, and we can obviously go from there. So again, I will leave that down in the description box below. And if you liked this episode, please like the video on YouTube and subscribe to our channel so that you can be made aware of new podcast episodes. And as always, I will speak to you next week. Thank you for listening. Bye.